Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm up in it's weird, man. My house is like oddly shaped. It's got 3 floors, but dude, don't get it twisted. I don't live in a big house at all. And I'm in the guest bedroom right now. It's kind of hot up here because the AC, unless you crank it down a little bit more, the AC doesn't affect it quite so well. So yeah, man, I'm enjoying this warm weather. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mike D and the Short Shot podcast. I think this is episode number 41. And look, a few people reached out to me about episode 40, and they're like, hey, it was cut off. I don't know if you know that. What else did he have to say? I should have made a note. It was cut off on purpose because I'd hit my topic on mental health. Then I started to go a little unscripted, which ironically, this episode is completely unscripted. But I started to go unscripted. And I don't know, man. I felt like I was rambling too much, and I didn't like what I said about the subjects we are talking about today, which is why I cut it at 20 minutes because you know what? I got all my points across in terms of how important mental health is, mental fitness, if you will. And that's why that episode was only 20 minutes long. But look, I'm going to expand on what I was talking about last time. If the audio sounds a little rattly, it's because I'm speaking through the microphone of my earbuds. So in the previous episode, you heard that little, right? It kind of sounded like, I don't know, like a wire, like spaghetti being shaken around. That's why. I need to get a proper microphone. Adam Ramsden, if you are listening, I definitely need to take you up on that offer and borrow your microphone. But okay, let's get going. So let's start off with mental health once again, man. Want to give you a little update on how I'm doing. I'm doing better. I'm doing a lot better. I saw my therapist again today. Saw in air quotes because, we're still doing stuff over Zoom and not in person. And it's great to get some stuff off your chest, and it's great to talk to someone who is going to give you an objective answer, and also someone who is qualified, who's done this for years, right? And is qualified to give you some really good information. So I had another session with her again today. This is the second one. And, full disclosure, I am taking medication. I'm on this, what's called a mood stabilizer called lamotrigine. And it is supposed to help with anxiety, which is a big factor with my functional depression. I get anxious, and sometimes that anxiety turns into a different form of energy, which is anger, which is bad. My temper flares up. So I am on that. I was taking Vibrid previously. I think I spoke about this in episode 40. I took Vibrid for one day, Viibryd. That's an antidepressant, and that had disastrous effects on a couple things. Number one, I was super foggy all day, just not myself, zoning out. I hated that feeling. I was willing to give that a shot for a little while, but just to see if that went away and my body kind of acclimated to it. The biggest factor was the bathroom factor. That I really couldn't leave my house that day. So my psychiatrist switched up the medication. I'm on lamotrigine, and I'm feeling better, man. Feeling less anxious, which is cool. No real side effects other than if I don't drink enough water, I can get a headache. But apart from that, I'm feeling pretty good. And look, man, you're talking to someone that I do not like taking medication, unless I'm in the hospital for injuring myself, right? Like, I don't like to take medication. So yeah, that is the status. One of the things that this process has taught me is, speaking of the medication, one of the things that this process has taught me is I need to be honest with my therapist. If something isn't working for me, I need to be honest with that, because at the end of the day, I'm harming myself and I'm harming the people around me. I think that medication can be a useful tool. You just have to make sure that there's trust between you and the person prescribing it. And once again, you have to be honest and you have to be firm. Only you know how you should really feel. Like, if I was on the lamotrigine and I was starting to feel foggy and that didn't let up after a couple days, I would have called my therapist and be like, hey, you know what? I don't think this is the right one for me. Can we do something else? So, yeah, I mean, over the past like week and a half or so, I've been feeling more patient, which is cool. And to be honest with you, the therapy, the medication, and also the fact that CrossFit Bison is back up and running. We are holding workouts in the parking lot until the governor of New Jersey approves indoor workouts. We've started up outdoor workouts, and it's been phenomenal. It's been great for everybody. Great for the community, of course, like for all of the athletes. The Bison Beasts are getting that outlet that they've needed for the past 3 months. They're reuniting with their friends at the gym. They're having social interactions again. And especially, for parents with kids at home, they're having social interaction with other adults, which is huge. That's big for me. And for me, as a coach, I'm able to use my mind again. I'm able to channel my energy and my passion into what I really believe in and what I'm passionate about. And I think that has been a great release for me, a great outlet. If there are any beasts listening to this right now, and anyone that that is just returning to exercise, or returning to working out with a group of friends, you might feel a little off, right? Like, I know for myself, I'm about like 5 to 10 pounds off where I want to be body weight wise. I know that strength wise, that's taken a hit. Oddly enough, endurance wise, I've definitely improved in, because most of my workouts over this lockdown period have been endurance based. A lot of rowing, a good amount of running, although I've had to taper that off a little bit because of my Achilles. But you might be feeling not quite yourself. It's okay. To varying degrees, everyone feels that. They feel that. They feel a little off, right? So you will get it back. I will get it back with consistency and all that good stuff. It's gonna come back. Have no fears, man. Speaking of the lockdown of the coronavirus, and this is subject number 1 I wanted to tackle that was purposely cut off from episode 40. A couple friends were like, yo, you should talk about how you feel about the lockdown and the people protesting the lockdown. And that gym in Belmore, I think that's how you pronounce it, Belmore, New Jersey, that opened up against the governor's wishes. All right, so how do I feel about the lockdown? Full disclosure, my aunt and my uncle passed away to the coronavirus. Now, that was a huge blow. They passed away within a week of each other. And so that might taint my outlook on this whole lockdown situation. Was the lockdown necessary? In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, yes. And the reason why I say yes is the governor of New Jersey, much like the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, they were looking at worst case scenario statistics. Okay, worst case scenario, what will happen? What may happen, right? Factoring those statistics into their decisions, they felt it was right to impose certain measures in New Jersey with Phil Murphy and in New York with Andrew Cuomo. And looking back on it, some of those measures maybe did not have to be made, right? Like, for example, Governor Cuomo of New York asked if a naval hospital ship could come to New York City to treat patients, right? I think that ship was for non-COVID patients, like in the event that the hospitals were overrun with COVID patients, non-COVID patients could go to that hospital ship. Now, it turns out that they didn't need that ship, so that ship departed, right? They're like, look, we don't need this, let's bring it somewhere where it is needed. Now, you can look at that and say, well, that was stupid. See, that was just a waste of time and resources, blah, blah, blah. What if the worst case scenario had happened? This is the kind of stuff that kind of drives me nuts because people don't think about this shit. What if the worst case scenario had happened? I believe New York City, right, has 18 million people. So the city itself, which is, Manhattan, and then like all the boroughs and stuff around it. 18 million people in that really confined space. Say the worst had happened and the hospitals were completely overrun. What do you do? What happens? You're damned if you do. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Which is why I would never want to run for public office because you're always going to be in a shitty position. People will always second guess your moves. If the worst case scenario had happened and the proper resources weren't there, that naval ship wasn't there, how many people would have died, right? Something that I admire with Governor Cuomo in particular is he relies on the science, he relies on the statistics, on his experts, and he makes adjustments from there on out. It seems as if Governor Murphy of New Jersey is doing the same thing. Is he maybe more conservative with his approach? Maybe so, right? But nonetheless, I do respect the fact that they are relying on science and data to drive their decisions. It's better to do that than to say, hey, you know what? I got it. I'm gonna guess. I think this is good. That's a shitty decision when you are responsible for millions of lives. So what do I think about the protests? I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am an American. In fact, I bought this badass shirt from Bison Union, and it says just that. Not Democrat, not Republican, American, right? So, like, I don't buy into this whole... I do not pigeonhole myself into left or right, right? Like, I respect a person's right to protest. Even if I may not agree with it, I respect a person's right to peacefully protest. So the gyms in New Jersey and the businesses, like all these like rallies that were saying, oh, we need to open up. I respected their right to do that. They have the right to peacefully protest what the governor has put in place. They have the right to air their grievances, so to speak. They have that ability, and that's what makes America great. Now, do I agree with it? Did I agree with it? To be honest with you, no, I did not agree with it. Especially when we're talking about much earlier on, when we were just leaving the peak, and people are already losing their minds. People are losing their minds because they don't want to wear a mask. It infringes on their rights. Does it? Yeah, I guess it does, in a sense. But with the science and data that we had at the time, now this is key, with the science and data that we had at the time, it was probably best at the time with our understanding that you wore a mask, that you wear a mask, right? I just couldn't understand why people were flipping out, like literally losing their minds over that. To me, that was a very selfish thing. That was a very selfish thing. And, as Americans, we pride ourselves in, oh yeah, we're Americans. It's the greatest country on earth. Yeah, we're all Americans. That to me was such bullshit. Just the fact that someone did not want to wear a mask to me showed their true colors. It's like, dude, just fucking do this to help people out, right? To prevent the spread of this sickness. Now, has the data changed? Has the science changed? Yes, it changes. It seems like every day, it changes like every week, which is another complaint that people have. But that's the nature of nature, isn't it? That's the nature of science, right? Test, retest, test, retest. That's why it's a great thing. So that's my whole thing on COVID. Oh, the gym, my bad. So that gym that opened up in Belmore, once again, I respect their right to do it, but I also think that was a selfish thing. And I'll be honest. Perhaps you'll say that I'm selfish in what I was about to say. I looked at that and thought to myself, you are going to screw this up for Bison and every other gym in New Jersey. That was my biggest fear. And yeah, that's selfish. I'll admit, I was looking out for myself, and that was my opinion. And that still is my opinion. I think that was a selfish move. Now, little caveat to that. If that gym was in danger of going bankrupt, of going down, yes, I'm with them. I'm with them. Then open. You have to go down swinging. You have to go down fighting. Like if the threat of foreclosure, bankruptcy, you're going out of business. If that is a legit threat, then you have to do something. You can't just let that happen. You have to go down fighting, right? I think one of the themes you'll find in this podcast today is like there's certain gray areas. Not everything is black and white, so to speak. There is some gray in many important issues that we're dealing with today. Let's move on. Something else I wanted to talk about was George Floyd. And this is a really, what I'm about to open up, we're going to go deep. All right? We're going to go deep. So, the murder of George Floyd, that was a straight up murder. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen, because you see the life drain out of this man. And look, he was accused of using counterfeit $20 bills and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Of course, the media is going to bring up I think he has a record. So, of course, the media tries to bring that up to say, oh, yeah, well, see, this was a bad guy. I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone deserves to die over a counterfeit $20 bill. I don't think anyone deserves to die over a counterfeit $100 bill or like $500 of counterfeit money. I think that was a terrible, terrible, terrible thing that happened. And in my opinion, once again, this is my opinion. I'm probably going to make some people mad, but whatever, dude. In my opinion, those officers should be prosecuted, which they are. They should be prosecuted. And, I hope they're found guilty. I really do. Being negligent should not excuse you from taking a man's life. You can argue that the officers didn't know how much pressure they were applying and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, you can say that. But that does not absolve them of the things, of what happened, of taking George Floyd's life. Does not absolve them of doing that. So that's just my opinion. Do I support, a friend asked me, So what do you think? Well, let me backtrack. A friend asked me, and he swings pretty far to the right. Do I support the Black Lives Matter movement? Yes. Yes, I do. I do support the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it is very important to bring awareness to the things that African Americans, that black people, and brown people like me face. Maybe not on a daily basis, but definitely face. I don't really speak about this too much because my mentality is very interesting. So I am a Filipino American. I was born and raised in the United States. Both of my parents are Filipino. Growing up, I grew up most of my life in the suburbs. I grew up in Edison when I was very small. I lived in Elizabeth, but only for a short amount of time after my father passed away. And then we moved to Cranford, New Jersey, which is a suburb. I think I was like 7 years old or 6 years old. And yeah, man, I've always grown up in the suburbs. Growing up, the vast majority of my friends, I think in grammar school, with the exception of another Filipino kid, Ed Vallejo, I mean, all our friends were either Irish, Italian, or Polish. They were white, okay? All our friends were white. All my friends growing up were white. And so I think that molded my mentality. I didn't see myself, I'll be honest, I didn't see myself as a Filipino kid, as a minority, as a brown person until pretty late in life. I mean, like, like in my 20s, we're like, oh yeah, I am Filipino. I know it sounds crazy. However, there's always a however. One of the things that I appreciated growing up is the fact that I went to a very diverse high school. I went to Roselle Catholic in Roselle, New Jersey, and luckily, my best friends growing up all went there. So I'm talking, I don't know if they're listening, but Johnny Micchio, Rob Bland, Carmine DiNicola. Then we met, cool, Dustin Moniz, sick group of friends, John Santora, Ed Davidowski. Oh, God, I'm forgetting people. It's going to drive. Oh, JP Regent, man. Dude, so we met all these, my core group of friends went to this very diverse school because it wasn't just us. It was also kids from, and look, at the time, there's kids from Roselle Park and Westfield, Cranford, Scotch Plains, but there were kids from Elizabeth. So these are urban areas if you're not aware. They are Elizabeth, Linden, Roselle, of course, itself, Irvington, Newark, I think Hillside. I might be forgetting Rahway. Okay, although Rahway's kind of half and half, in terms of urban and suburban, really. And that was fucking great. That was great because we were exposed to people of different backgrounds, different cultures, different upbringings in terms of, socioeconomically. And that was one of the best experiences that I had because that opened up my eyes to, okay, dude, there's more than the suburbs and the friends that you grew up with. There's this huge, huge world that you have no idea about. You have zero idea about, And I'm thankful for that. Thinking back on it now, there were definitely times that the color of my skin played a factor in things that people said. And, look, man, if you don't want to hear this kind of stuff and if this is too heavy for you, I get it. Stop this episode and, if you haven't already, stop this episode and move on to the next one, or go back, whatever. But there have been times that the color of my skin has played a role in the way people acted towards me. One of the key things I remember when I was younger, man, I was bullied by some people, by some kids in my grade, and they would call me a monkey, and they would ask if I like ate bananas, if I had any bananas that day, and to go back to the jungle, or if I went to the jungle, if I slept in the jungle that night, whatever. So stupid shit like that. And like, you don't think about that kind of stuff until you get a little bit older. But when I started thinking about it, I was like, dude, those kids were racist as fuck. Like, how do you say that? How do you say that? Like, it's super interesting. I think I'm thankful because I can see both sides. And I think my upbringing, me growing up in the suburbs, and then me being exposed to people of different backgrounds at Roselle Catholic, and that exposure continuing when I went to college, and then that exposure continuing even more when I was coaching high school track and field, when my track and field team was made up of white kids, Haitian kids, African American, Hispanic, got everything, dude. Like, that really brought my awareness to a new level, and it let me see different perspectives. It let me made me more open to understanding, to learning about others. So I've always had this really interesting, and I'm thankful for it. I've always had this way of being able to see one person's perspective and then the other side's perspective, right? So I'm super thankful for that. Maybe sometimes I'm being hypersensitive. I mean, that's always a possibility, right? But I think any functioning adult knows when they're being judged. They know that. And it doesn't happen often for me. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen still as an adult. And it's super frustrating. Super frustrating. One of the jokes, okay, let's bring this up. One of the jokes that I hear a lot, because I enjoy growing a beard. I grow a beard normally every winter, ever since 2012, right? And right now I have a pretty giant beard just because I feel like it. I like it, and it's not going to go anywhere until I'm done liking it. One of the jokes that I get is, "Oh man, you look like a terrorist." And, I kind of laugh it off. But like, dude, I'll be honest, man. Like, I wonder sometimes if I was a white dude, right? If I was a white dude, would I still be called a terrorist? I don't know. If you're listening to this, like, drop me a comment or something. Comment on like whatever platform. Probably Instagram is the easiest way. Like, let me know. Like, if I was a white dude, would people still call me a terrorist? Like, what the fuck is up with that, man? I don't know. I don't know. So, all right, let me circle back because we're getting a little bit off topic. So yeah, I do support the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that more awareness has to take place, has to happen in order for us to appreciate each other. Now, here's the thing. Do I support the police? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think people get sucked into this whole thing of, well, if you support one, you can't support the other. And I'm not just talking about the police and Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about fucking everything, right? Everything. I support the police because of several things. Number one, when 9/11 happened, one of the things I was considering doing was joining the police academy. I wanted to make a difference in society. I was dissuaded from it. We'll go into that at another time. Nothing terrible happened. It's just, I don't know. But I was dissuaded from it, and I ended up not being a policeman. But I also know some really good people. I know some really good people that are policemen and policewomen. My buddy Mike Barrero, who is a Newark PD who's in the Newark PD. At the gym, we have at CrossFit Bison. Forgive me if I forget, but Owen, Kristen, Jess, God, who else? Sean, Chris Santos, James. We have people who serve on the police force, and they are good people, genuinely good people. At my previous gym, Steph Regina, she's a police officer in Scotch Plains. These are good people. Oh, how could I forget? My wife's cousin, Megan. She is, I believe, a detective in Jersey City. She is fascinating to have a conversation with because she, as a police officer, sees both sides, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's amazing. There are good police officers out there. I truly, truly believe that. And not for nothing, but I don't have a gun still. It's hard to get a gun in New Jersey. Who am I going to, if something happens, who the fuck am I going to call? Who am I going to call to help me? If we didn't have the police, right? What am I going to do? Even if I did have a gun, like what, I'm going to just start shooting into my house? That's crazy. There are good police officers. Now, look, do I think that there has to be change? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Do I think the police should be defunded? I don't think money should be taken away from them. No. And I've read different reports on what defunding actually means. So I don't know. I guess it's up for debate. But look, I do not think money should be taken away from police officers. I think the money should be used better. If you guys don't listen to the Cleared Hot podcast with Andy Stumpf, I've mentioned him a million times before, you should listen to that podcast, right? Listen to the episode with Henner Gracie. It's spelled, it looks like Renner, Rener, but he's Brazilian, so it's pronounced Henner. Listen to the episode, to the Cleared Hot podcast episode with Henner Gracie. And for those of you that aren't into mixed martial arts, right? Or the UFC, man, do you do UFC? For those of you that aren't into mixed martial arts and, Strikeforce UFC, Strikeforce doesn't exist anymore, sorry. The Gracies are like the godfathers. What are like one of the 5 families of mixed martial arts. They are the godfathers of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Henner Gracie is in the Gracie family. He works with a lot of law enforcement. And if you go on his YouTube channel, he actually critiques law enforcement officers' techniques in apprehending suspects, in containing them. I'm not sure of the right word. In restraining them, right? And he's gotten a lot of flack on it sometimes because people accuse him of, hey man, you're anti-police. And that's not the case at all. Listen to that podcast. It's really good. The overarching theme is this. He feels, look, man, the police need more training. They need the proper training to make sure that, number one, they keep themselves safe, right? Like they need to make sure that if they encounter a legitimate bad guy that's trying to hurt them, and the guy is trying to wrestle him off and whatever, like they need to make sure that they can contain that person so that they are safe and the people around them, both police officers and civilians, are safe. That is huge. But also, and of course, the proper training has to be there to make sure that someone that doesn't deserve to die does not die. Like George Floyd. That man did not deserve to die. Right? And Henner Gracie I believe he works with police departments in training their officers, in knowing different techniques, in knowing the difference between, okay, cool, this is a good restraint. I'm not going to cause any harm. At the most, this person is going to pass out and just go to sleep for a little while. Versus, you're going to kill this person. He talks about it. He talks about it in his podcast, in the Cleared Hot podcast, how, when you're watching a UFC fight, right? Or Bellator, whatever. And one of the fighters has the other fighter in some sort of chokehold. Okay, let's use a simple chokehold, like a rear naked chokehold. In the UFC, in mixed martial arts, right, it's a controlled environment. So the opponent, if they're in that chokehold, most likely will tap, right? They'll tap out. Ref will call it. The ref will call it. The person that has that chokehold in place is gonna get off them, good to go. Or worst case scenario, okay, and this is in mixed martial arts, the person in the chokehold ends up passing out. The ref hops in and breaks up the fight, ends the fight. Okay. Guess what? In the real world, that does not happen, and that didn't happen with George Floyd. Maybe the officer didn't know. Maybe he's like, you know what? Yeah, he can still talk. I got my fucking knee on his neck, but he's still talking. This guy's fine. He's full of shit, right? Yeah, sure. Maybe he didn't know. But what if he did know? Let me rephrase that. What if he could have known, right? What if he could have done something else to restrain this man who was agitated? Maybe the outcome, not maybe, the outcome would have been different. We wouldn't be having necessarily the stuff that's happening now, the protests that we're having now, you know? So there's that side. I don't think the police should be defunded. We need the police. We need good police. Perhaps hiring standards should be higher, right? Hiring standards should be higher. Perhaps training should be longer, more in depth. Training should also be updated throughout the year. Something, right? Like measures need to take place to make things safer for everybody. For everybody. I think seeing both sides is a very unique position because going back to what I said earlier, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? It's really frustrating to see how your actions or lack of actions, your actions and lack of actions can be just spun around in a different way, in a way that you didn't intend. And we're going to switch gears slightly right now, and we're going to talk about social media, okay? So, like I said, I support the Black Lives Matter movement. I also support the police. Now, I've been watching things going on in the world, as most people have, and for better or worse, social media can be a powerful tool in gathering information. Now, is that information 100% correct? I mean, you've got to use your judgment there. You have to do some more some more research. But that's how a lot of information, air quotes, gets distributed these days, right? Some of it is good. Some of it is good. Some of it is not good. Okay, some of it is taken out of context. And I'm watching people destroy each other because they either posted something on the Black Lives Matter movement or because they didn't post something on the Black Lives Matter movement and now they're being called, oh, look at you. You don't support this. You only support it when it's, I don't know, convenient for you, stuff like that. And same thing with the police. Oh, you're posting stuff about Black Lives Matter. You know, you don't care about the police, blah, 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 blah. Or you're posting about the police, you must be against the Black Lives Matter movement. It's maddening. It's super, super frustrating. Like, what the hell, guys? When did someone have to be super active on social media to support a cause? You know, like, because someone doesn't post it on Facebook or Instagram or fucking TikTok. I don't know why you post it on TikTok, but like Visco, whatever. Like, just because you don't post 1 million stories a day, just because you don't make 1 million posts about what you believe in, you don't believe in it? That doesn't make any sense to me. Social media can be a useful tool, but I think in this day and age, it does way more harm than good. Way more harm than good. Switching gears a little bit, speaking about the social media and the problems it can create, let's talk about CrossFit. So, Greg Glassman. Jesus. A few days ago, the former CEO, and I think still owner of CrossFit Inc., Greg Glassman, he founded CrossFit way back in the day, and he came up with the methodology. He's been making super insensitive statements on COVID-19 and on George Floyd. Super, super insensitive statements. With George Floyd in particular, you can argue that he made racist statements, and more information is now coming out in terms of meetings that he had with people and this and that. He said some really shitty things that I cannot condone and I cannot support in any way, shape, or form. I can't, dude, look, I don't like excuses, right? Maybe it's just a coach in me, right? I've been coaching for 20 years. But I don't like excuses. If you screw something up, own it. Just like if you do well in something, own it, right? If you screw something up, own it and apologize. And do the next best steps. Do the right thing to make it better, or to at least try, right? At least to get people on that road. He issued an apology, and it was a non-apology. He never said, "I'm sorry for this." I think, in my opinion, that's a testament of his personality. I don't mean that in a good way, right? It's a testament to his personality. But he had this opportunity to maybe not set things right, because it takes a lot more than words to set things right, but at least put things on the right path. Now, he failed in that. One of the things that he did do, maybe he didn't completely fail. One of the things that he did do was he resigned as CEO of CrossFit, which I think is a fantastic thing. Fantastic thing. Besides his stupid statements, right? I think this was years in the coming. So I think that's great. Now, look, when all of this happened, when all this became public, because social media, right? When all this became public, people were, of course, very angry. I was angry. I was confused, actually, first. And then more information came out, and I was like, this is crazy. I was angry. As a minority, right? As a coach who is friends with, who has seen high school kids grow up and become adults, and people with families. I'm talking about the minority kids that I've coached throughout the years. I'm talking about me as a minority, as a brown guy. It was stupid. His statements were unforgivable, right? So I think him stepping down is a great step, and a lot of people were like, "Look, what he said is unforgivable. We're done. We're done. We're de-affiliating from CrossFit, and we want nothing else to do with CrossFit." Several games athletes dropped out. Christy Aramo, Noah Olson, and Chandler Smith, who is African American and is a bad motherfucker. I believe he graduated. He's a West Point grad, which is so cool, man. They backed out of the games, right? And you know what? I respect that. Because I was so angry when all this information came out, when all this news came out. So there's the tweet about George Floyd. There was the tweets about coronavirus. There was the report on the Zoom call he had with people. There was that email where he blasted the affiliate owner, now former affiliate owner, because they changed their name, of Rocket CrossFit. I was like, this guy is a fucking maniac. He's a loose cannon. So I 100% respect the people's decisions to step away from CrossFit. Does it make me sad? Yeah, it makes me sad. Like, I know some really awesome gyms and some really awesome people that are now stepping away from CrossFit. But I get it. I get it, dude. And I also get the other side. Okay? Look, man, once again, there's, let's call it left, let's call it right, and then let's call it middle. Right? I understand the other side where people are like, let's wait. Let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see if CrossFit does the right thing, if they get rid of Glassman, if someone else takes his place, if they can reassemble a great team, if they can reassemble CrossFit HQ the way that it should be, the way that it was years ago. Let's wait and see. And you know what? Depending on what happens, if it happens, fantastic. We're on board. If it doesn't happen, and if it's still bullshit, then we're out too. I respect the people that are waiting. And to be completely transparent, that's what we're doing at CrossFit Bison. We're waiting. There's several reasons for that. Number one, we're waiting because CrossFit, I myself, right? I'm sure Dave and Chris would say the same thing. We owe a lot to CrossFit. It has changed our lives. It completely changed my life. Completely changed my outlook on training, on exercise, my mental outlook. Who knows? Maybe I'd still be a personal trainer at that Globo gym where I was at way back in the day. I wouldn't have made so many connections and met so many fantastic, amazing people. I wouldn't have made so many amazing friends and built these strong relationships. I owe a lot to CrossFit. A lot of people owe a lot to CrossFit. So there's that side of the coin, right? The problem is this. And I had to take a little break from social media, at least from Instagram, today. The problem is when certain sides, when both sides just start burying each other, like just attacking each other. So you have some people that are staying with CrossFit for the time being, accusing those of that have jumped ship of, I think maybe being traitors is the wrong term, but that's the only term that's coming to mind right now. They're calling them traitors, like oh, you're abandoning CrossFit when things got hard for you. You're just using them, blah blah blah. This is just whatever. And then you have the people that have de-affiliated. You have some of them saying, well, you're still with CrossFit. You're a part of the problem. You're racist. You guys are against minorities, and you got to take a stand. Blah blah blah. And look, the world is hard. The world is hard. This is a situation where it's not black and white. There's that middle ground. Tying it back with George Floyd, his death was clear cut. That was an execution, right? Maybe execution is too strong a term. I'm probably going to piss some people off, but they killed that man. They didn't need to do that. They killed that man, right? But this is where it gets gray now. Again, I truly believe that there are good police officers out there. So there's this acronym that I'm getting old. You know why? Because I had to Google what this acronym meant. Protesters were, I'm not even going to call them protesters. Rioters were spray painting ACAB on buildings and walls and shit. And I was like, what the hell does ACAB mean? So I Googled it, and ACAB means all cops are bastards, meaning that all cops are bad. And it's not a black and white situation. It's gray, man. Like, there are good police officers out there. With the CrossFit gyms that have stayed with CrossFit, at least stayed for now. And I can only speak for us at Bison, but I firmly believe it's the same with most everyone out there that has stayed with CrossFit for now. We're not racist. We're not like... It's like the people that say, oh man, America, bro. America, man, love it or leave it. America, love it or leave it. That's fucking stupid. No. It's not. It shouldn't be America, love it or leave it. It's America. If you see that there's some sort of wrong happening, fix it. Bring about positive change and try to fix it. Right? That's like me saying if I didn't like President Trump, okay? Say I'm not a President Trump fan. That's like me saying, you know what? I hate Donald Trump, so I hate America. That makes no sense. Try to fix it. Try to fix it. And I wish people would see that's what we're hoping happens with CrossFit. That's what we're hoping happens. Like, here's this thing that we are super passionate about, that we love. And for sure, changes need to take place. Changes stemming from this whole fiasco that Glassman caused. Changes from the business structure in terms of supporting affiliates and actually having a conversation with affiliates, right? Being there for them in their time of need, or, not even a time of need, just really unifying all the affiliates in the world. Change has to take place. Am I ready to say, that's a better statement. Am I ready to say, oh, that's it. Nope. Fuck it, dude. I'm out. Personally, I'm not. But I'm not going to say anyone that left, right? Anyone that de-affiliated, I'm not going to call them, I'm not going to say that they're part of the problem. I'm not going to say, oh man, you guys are traitors. You guys are just trying to save whatever, $5,000 a year by not affiliating because, you got your exposure now, blah, blah, blah. You quote unquote don't need CrossFit anymore. You guys are just using them. I'm not going to say that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that is being said. And to me, it's crazy. It's crazy. Look, before you start, and this goes, I'm talking to people on both sides. And I'm talking to people on, on every subject that I've discussed in this episode. Before you start just spitting random shit out on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I want you to consider two things, okay? Number one, have you really, truly sat down and thoughtfully considered that other person's point of view? And is what you're about to say constructive? Is it a real constructive criticism? Something that they can build on? Which, yeah, you know what? It might hurt, whatever. It might hurt their pride a bit. But is it something that they can actually build off of? Or is it just this weird emotional response where you're just trying to bury the person? Which, I'll be honest, when I argue, I go that place sometimes. Like, it's not a good place. I'm willing at times, it's so bad, to drop a nuclear bomb. Even though I know it's going to kill me, I'm like, well, I'm just going to win this argument because you're going to die too. I mean, that's bad, dude. No one wins from that. Is what you're going to say a constructive criticism? So that's number one. Number two is something I picked up from Andy Stumpf of the Cleared Hot podcast, who, I mentioned it before, oddly enough, Andy Stumpf used to work for CrossFit. Anyways, what you're about to post on Instagram and Facebook or whatever social media you're using, is it something you would say to someone in an elevator that has broken down? Think about that, right? Like, say you were in an elevator with me. I don't know. is what you're about to post, would you say that to my face? Like, if you would, then great, have at it. It could be a shitty statement, but I guess fine, go ahead. But if it's not, then don't do it. And if you are willing to do it in front of that person, then be ready for the consequences. You know what I mean? I think if people actually sat down and thought about what they were going to say before they said it, before they posted it, a lot of shit would take care of itself. Let's put it that way. All right, final subject, because it is, God, wow. It's almost 6:30 and I need to start getting to the kids to feed them with Melissa. Thought she's going to kill me. What do I think about Dave Castro being appointed as CEO? To be honest with you, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I have been fortunate enough to meet with Dave Castro, to speak with him in the past. When I used to work at CrossFit Morristown for Cariana Anthes, formerly Cariana Dixon, she introduced me to Dave Castro in Colorado. And at the time, I'll tell you what, when Dave Castro is in his element, when he's running a competition, he's scary. You cannot talk to him. The dude is laser focused. And you know what? I get it. I fucking get it. And look at the success of the games. The games would not be where they were. I mean, a lot of people, of course, tons of people play a huge role in the games. But as the director of the games, the buck stops with Dave Castro. If he wasn't laser focused, then the games would have ended in 2007, right? They wouldn't have gone on until 2020, hopefully 2020. But when you sit down and talk to him, he's a really thoughtful person. And that struck me because he's fucking scary. Like, first of all, I'm not even 5'7". I'm 5'6" and 3/4. Dave Castro's really tall. I'll post a picture. You know what? I'm going to post a picture of Dave Castro and me as the thumbnail for this episode. He's super tall, and he was a Navy SEAL, like straight up Navy SEAL, man. Like, he's intimidating. But I remember out in Colorado, he was asking me, he's like, "Hey, man, like, so how did you discover CrossFit? Where are you from? How do you like it?" Like, he was asking me all these questions, and I thought that was really awesome. So now look, that interaction goes back like 9 years now. So maybe it's changed. Maybe he really is the dick that he portrays himself to be when he's doing the games announcements. I'll tell you what, he enjoys playing the villain. He definitely does. But who knows, man? Like, maybe he changed. Maybe he really is a villain. But I'm hoping that he's not, and I'm willing to wait it out. I personally am willing to wait it out. Okay? And if you're not, I get it. But for me, I am personally willing to wait it out. Now, look, a video surfaced from the 2019 games. They were having a press conference, and on the podium were several games athletes. I know for a fact Frazier was there. Not Hepner. The other guy that's short, and they're all short. And he's on Rich Froning's team now. He's on CrossFit Mayhem. Anyways, a cross-section of athletes were on the podium. And when I say cross-section, I mean like the heavy hitters of CrossFit. I mean, these are people that are like, okay, they all have a legitimate shot to win the CrossFit Games, right? They were up there with Dave Castro, and a reporter asked him, "Hey, man, like, CrossFit, what are you going to do, essentially, to address the lack of diversity in the CrossFit Games, the lack of diversity in the field, in the CrossFit Games, the field of athletes?" And Dave Castro thought that was a stupid question, and he didn't answer it. He looked down, he had a little laugh, and he said, "All right, event number 1 is blah, 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 blah." Now, look, here's the thing. He should have answered that question. He should have, okay? He should have answered that question. It was very insensitive of him to disregard that question. However, there's always another side, right? However, I understand why he did that. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. Anyone that is super left leaning, okay? Super liberal. I get it. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm like center left. If you fucking have to box me into something, like I'm center left on a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know, the gay, lesbian, trans community, I'm all for it. Black Lives Matter, I'm all for it, right? Do I think there should be a wall built between us and Mexico? No, and good luck having Mexico fucking finance that shit. No, I don't believe in that. But do I believe in the police, and do I support the military? Yeah, I do. Do I believe in the Second Amendment and the right to own a gun? And as a matter of fact, I do. So don't get it twisted, man. Don't get it twisted, right? Like I said, not Democrat, not Republican, I'm American. The reason why he felt that question was stupid is this. Anyone that has done even a single CrossFit Open, even one single CrossFit Open, you know that a spot at the games is not given. A spot at the games is earned. A spot at the games is earned. I don't know how else I can clarify that particular statement. Once again, a spot at the CrossFit Games is not given. A spot at the CrossFit Games is earned. Now look, could they have brought up the national champions, which we're going to talk about that in a second, the national champions, right? From each country that has an affiliate. So say, the Congo, say they have a CrossFit affiliate. The national champion of the Congo, could they have brought him up? The national champion of the Philippines, could they have brought him up? The national champion of, I don't know, what's a random country? Kazakhstan, right? Where Borat's from. Could they have brought him up? Yeah, sure, they could have. So yeah, maybe in the future they do that. But I don't think it was done with malicious intent to have the heavy hitters, the people that had a legit shot to win the CrossFit Games, the heavy hitters of the games at that podium. Now you might be asking, well, who's to say that, the champion from Mexico, the champion from the Philippines, from Malaysia didn't have a shot to win the CrossFit Games? Yeah, I mean, they could have. Maybe they should have considered that in who was at that press conference. But also in terms of CrossFit, the data doesn't lie, right? Like when you look at a person's statistics through the CrossFit Open, through sanctional events, if they had done sanctional events, maybe they felt that the people they had on that panel were the ones, right? I think it's disingenuous to take something out of context and immediately try to destroy someone, right? Let's also not forget the fact that Dave Castro is not a white guy. He's a brown guy. He's a person of color. He's a Mexican American. That's not to say that there can't be racist Mexican Americans, racist Filipinos, because there are. There are. However, in the proper context, when you consider that question, it's a pretty foolish question. Especially 2019 was a year, once again, that every national champion went to the CrossFit Games. Every country that had an official affiliate was in the running, and the national champion, that country's champion, went to the CrossFit Games for both the men and the women. Social media, man, I don't know. I'm glad I'm taking a break. Look, I'm probably going to get some flack for this episode. I hope I don't. No, you know what? I hope I do. Give me criticism. Make sure you do my criteria, though, all right? And that way I can at least come up with Come up with a real response, okay? A true, heartfelt, constructive response rather than just say, okay, this person clearly has emotional problems and whatever, right? I shouldn't joke about that because I am seeing a therapist for my mental health. But hey, man, you got to make light of a situation somehow. Shit. That's it. That's all I got for today, everybody. Look, I hope you like this episode. I know that we went through a wide range of topics. I hope you get to know me a little bit more as not just Coach Mike D, but Mike Delatorre as friend, athlete, and coach. If you feel that this podcast can help anyone, then please, by all means, share it. Okay, it's found on Spreaker. What the heck? Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, a whole bunch of stuff. Leave a comment, leave a like. I'm going to post this on Instagram as well, like a picture of it and a link on Instagram in my bio. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. So if you have a comment, leave it there, man. And look, be safe. God bless America. God bless you. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.